How fabulous to see you here. Can I just start by asking you, you're in the middle of this kind of extraordinary period of attention. I know you are no newcomer to awards. You have many, all deservedly so. Is this a really crazy period?
Yeah.
How are you dealing with it?
I think I'm okay. People ask me, I'm a new mom. I had a baby 6 months ago, so yeah. So in the middle of all this, I'm also like changing nappies at 3 a.m. and I think it's a gift. You know, my work's done. This bit is about sharing it with the world, and the other stuff is something that I guess going into those rooms and places, I still am in awe that I'm around artists that have inspired me in ways that I couldn't even tell them because I'd make an absolute fool out of myself. And I think to make anything at all is an absolute triumph. And so I just, honestly, I can't believe it. If someone had told me at 36 years of age, you're going to have a baby and then you're going to just, you know, be doing something that you love and be sharing stories about women like the women I've been lucky enough to get to know in my work and then be responded to by the world. I can't believe it.
Well, listen, we're going to talk for about an hour. We will have a little bit of time for audience questions at the very end. We have some clips from your extraordinary screen career. I want to start by saying, I don't know whether you remember, but it was, you know, maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago when you came on the stage here to talk about Beast, because I do a show here monthly, and you came on with Johnny Flynn. And then at the end of talking about that, you played a song. I think you played a Bob Dylan song. I think you played...
Don't think twice, it's all right.
It's all right.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, that is... she is going to be the biggest star in the whole world. But of course, I was very late to this because by the time you did that, you'd already had this whole singing career panned out for you, and you know all that had happened. I was reading that when you were at school, you played a lot of male parts in performances at school. Is that true, and did that help at all?
I don't know if it helped, but it just what was on offer because I was in an all-girls convent school.
You did Tony in
I
West
did
Side
Tony in West Side Story. Steven Spielberg didn't call me up for that role, which is rude. And I did Freddie Trumper in Chess.
Wow.
And I think I did God. In Children of Eden. I can't remember what that was.
But so you always had the bug. You were always performing.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's two things that really hooked me in. I grew up in like a family and with parents who really had such a deep respect and need for music and for writing and storytelling. And my mother's a harpist and a singer. And I think one of the first moments that I felt like I couldn't maybe understand what it was, but that it was essential to my life was watching her sing in church. And she wanted to be an opera singer. And when I was tiny baby, she came to London to train to be an opera singer, and she ended up having to go home. But I think there was always that hunger and need for her to tell a story through song. And I would watch her in church, and it was like she needed to like save herself, you know, and it was absolutely so raw. And I'd see this mercurial transaction happen with strangers in this congregation, men, old women, like children come up and they'd have tears like streaming down their face. And I was like, what's happened? Like, they don't know each other. What's happened in kind of mid-air that? And that was probably the first catch of the like instinct bug. But then I remember they brought me to a production of Jesus Christ Superstar in our local town hall in the Áras Pádraig in Killarney. And I think I'd done Irish dancing or something in that town. And all of a sudden this...
I love the way you represented Irish dancing by that.
That was exactly how I did it, which is why I was so bad at it, because I was like, woohoo! And apparently you're meant to like keep your hands really close in. But I remember they like had brought all these like church pews into the town hall, and the place was transformed. And I remember hearing this like sound. It felt like it was in a beehive and everybody was chattering, and then through osmosis the whole place went silent. And I remember watching this production of Jesus Christ Superstar it was an amateur production company in Killarney who did it, and being so sure that a man had like been crucified in front of my eyes that I was inconsolable. Like I was on the floor, and my mom had to bring me backstage and introduce me to like Mike Murphy, who played, you know, your man. And it was the first time and like I could see all the women taking off their tights, and I saw the magic, you know, two things were existing at once, something so real and also magic. And I think from that moment and those two moments, definitely I wanted to be part of whatever that was.
So the acting and singing have always been completely intertwined?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to show some clips from some of your films, and I want to show a clip from Beast, which, as I said, your first feature. I confess that when I saw Beast, I had not heard your accent. And you have an amazing ear for accents, because when I first met you, I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were speaking in the voice that it is. Do you think that having an ear for accents is at all tied to the musicality thing?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of listen to it like music, you know. It's not something that I can wake up in the morning and do a Geordie accent. Like, it's like learning a whole new kind of genre. And when I'm prepping a role, I have to like drill it, you know, again and again, and make sure that musicality of that accent and that character and whatever other essences you put around that is part of me. Okay. So, but I guess it does help to be able to tune in. Yeah.
All right, well, let's have a look at a clip from Beast. If you haven't seen it, Beast is a magnificent film. I absolutely loved it when it came out. And it's basically your character. What's happened is that she's fallen in with Pascal, played by Johnny Flynn. You have an domineering mother who thinks that he's a bad influence, but the whole thing is that your character has their own dark secrets that we discover during the course of the film. So if we have a look at a scene and then we can talk about it after. Yep, because you haven't seen the clips before, have you?
No, I know.
You're finding them out as they come up.
Yes.
Excellent. I'm sure you're going to love this one. It's great. Okay. Do you remember filming the scene?
No. I really remember this film. I remember reading this script for the first time, and you know, for a lot of your early life as an actor, you're just you never expect anything. I mean, you still don't most of your life ever expect anything. And
I think you're in a position to expect a lot now, but
well, you don't, you know, things happen. You don't know. Like, I don't think I do feel that. I think, and maybe it changes. I think. Well, anyway, whatever. Who cares about that?
But what spoke to you about the script?
It was like, I think there was something raw in this script.
Yeah.
And it just had like a pulse, you know. It had like a kind of raw, disobedient, provocative pulse, and it felt primal. It was such a great script immediately, and it was probably the first film script that I felt like, you know, sometimes you get a script and your heart like lurches at it, and you're like, I know I need to do this. Mm-hmm. And to the point that I remember I'd read that Marion Cotillard had kept the script for Rust and Bone under her bed. I was like, well, I've got to do that. If I want to do this, I've got to put my script under my bed. And I did. I put it under my bed. And there's a lot of like auditioning at the beginning. And I've always actually loved auditioning, because if you get to meet a script or a character that you feel so intensely about, I always feel like, well, all I can do is like commit. If it doesn't work out, I've had a love affair with something that has changed my view of the world in a way that I didn't know was possible the week before that. And I can just, let's just go in and show what is coming from you. And actually it's bigger than you anyway. There's so many parts that a director is kind of putting together. But when something like this hits, you definitely feel, I felt like, I know this, and I'm ready to be in this place.
I was on this stage a few months ago with Daniel Day-Lewis, and he was talking about method. And he said, the thing is, everyone misunderstands it. It's just how I work, and it happens to work for me, not for everybody. But there's this kind of whole thing about everyone's process seems crazy from the outside. Do you have a process that is set or rigorous? Do you have a process for getting into? Because I don't really understand how acting works, but I'm watching that and thinking, I believe that you are feeling every single one of those emotions at the point that your mother is bullying you. Do you have a process?
I don't have a process. I think like every film's a very different process. And my process is I try to follow my nose most of the time. And I find, when you open up a script or a book, that world starts kind of appearing around you, and I'm a magpie. I need pictures, I need music, I need like dreams, I need to write. It's developed over time. I think when I did that film was so interesting because it was really everybody on that job, it was really their first film, which is always such an exciting place because there's kind of, you have that experience like you're a child, when I think back of that film, it was like we were all in a tree house, really make believe. And it's such a pure state to make something in because no one's got any preconceived idea of who you are. There's so much potential. You kind of have like a punk attitude. I remember, there's no money as well. So there's kind of a freedom with that, but also probably for the producers, terror with that, because I remember we were shooting the scene on the golf course where she waxed the grass, and I'm not somebody who kind of beats around the bush. I'm like, let's whack the grass. But that costs a lot of money on a golf course. And I remember they had built like bits of, they had brought in kind of styrofoam or different things, but my wallop was quite fierce and it did pierce the ground. But I think about this first film a lot now because of that pure place of working, and not knowing, I didn't know how to work on film. But I have a really strong memory of like a relationship of like meeting a camera for the first time and having such a kind of, I still have that on when I meet, if I haven't worked for a while and a camera, I remember when I shot Bride, I worked for about a year and a half and we did a camera test, and I remember having that relationship with that camera again, being like, it's like, for me, it's like an animal, it's like something so alive. It's not an object. And I remember feeling that for the first time when I shot Beast and going, oh, I really like this.
Do you think that everyone who is a great screen actor has a similar feeling? The fact that you're talking about the camera as a person, as a presence, not just a machine?
I don't know. I think like great artists, people have different tools and different ways of painting, and I don't think it's prescriptive like that. I think people find their own language within the medium that they're working in, and that can look very different. It can look very different for the same actor, depending on what it is. So, Tom Cruise is an incredible actor, but he's like an athlete, and he probably has a completely different Jedi and kind of attention to camera. And I don't want to be aware of it. I know like Steven Spielberg probably has a method that is, the shots that he creates are so attuned, and I'm sure you have to work very differently as an actor if you're working in that space. So I don't think so.
Okay. So let's talk about Wild Rose. And Wild Rose seemed like such a perfect project because obviously the character is really interesting, but also it's a character who sings, and it's somebody who's...
We love an interesting character.
We love an interesting character, but we also love an interesting character who sings. And it's a country and western movie with a Glaswegian setting. And I think it was the writer Nicole Taylor who said, you have to understand the thing about country and western music, and I'm quoting, she said, it's like a suppository for the emotionally constipated. Which I thought was a great description of it. Tell us about Rose as a character.
Oh, she was so fun to play. I mean, talk about kind of disobedience and passion and struggle, How do I live a dream and be a mother? And failing at both of those things and then succeeding in both of those things. And it was I made it with Tom Harper, who I actually had done my first ever TV job with, War and Peace. And there's all these incredible musicians, and it was a really alive, free, kind of, I'm going to say raw-edged. Maybe that's just me. But I loved playing her.
We take a look at the scene. So the setup is we meet her. She's just come out of prison. Her kid's been being looked after. She gets a job working as, I think, what's called a daily in the thing. The scene that we're going to play, it's funny that you just mentioned Tom Cruise completely out of nowhere, because I think when I saw it, it reminded me of quite a famous...
Of Tom Cruise.
Of Tom Cruise. You know what, yes. No, it did.
But it will make... all the time.
It will, yeah. I know. You get mistaken in the street. It's really easy. I think there is actually a Tom Cruise connection with this. We'll have a look at it, and then you can shoot me down in flames that I'm wrong. But this is great. So she's just started working, and she's...
What is the Tom Cruise connection, though?
Can I show you the clip, and then can I explain it afterwards? Okay. Yeah. Is that right? Because then it'll sound much more convincing, and then you won't think, why is he asking me this stupid question, which I know is what you're thinking at the moment. Okay, here we go. Risky business.
I had a very, very miserable time on that film.
Oh, did you?
No, I'm joking. I look like I'm having a blast.
But I love that scene. I mean, firstly, I love the way in which the musicians are there in the room, but I just love the fact that you're giving it 110%. What was it like to shoot that? It must be really hard to have that level of abandon on set.
Not for me. I feel like it's the I don't know. I feel very free and at home on set, I don't, it's not a scary place for me to let go.
Okay. And what about country music? Because I think the soundtrack for that, was a UK country #1, the album?
Was it?
I believe so,
wow, that's great. Yeah, I had no idea about country music. I mean, growing up, there was like Daniel O'Donnell in Ireland, and that was as far as my country music knowledge went. And Johnny Cash, but who's amazing. And so that was such a gorgeous journey, and these incredible country musicians, folk musicians, Neil McCall, these... Really, we got to sing in the Ryman Theatre in Nashville on that stage where, the ghosts of Johnny Cash and June and all those greats had stood. And it was...
What was playing at the Ryman's like? Was it terrifying? Oh, no, not for you, because you feel completely at home in all these circumstances.
Well, no. I mean, it's not terror, but there's a sense of awe, you know, like, and you do go on a journey in a film. And I remember actually it was really hard to get to Nashville, ironically. We were meant to go during shoot, and for some reason, I think our visas got messed up or something. We couldn't go when we were meant to go. And so it got put on hold for like 2 months. And then we did manage to get to Nashville, having shot most of the film already, and I lived that life, you know. Me and those musicians for real sang those songs, and I had fallen in love with country music. And then you get to go to these incredible spaces, and there's a reverence, you know, like there's a reverence to this space, and there's also like, whoa, we've like gone on a bit of a journey here as a community of storytellers. We've made it to this place, and I find those moments very moving. Like they're not lost on me. I pinch myself when you get those opportunities.
Did you retain that love of country? Because country is a weird. I mean, I am a country fan, and it is a weird thing that it is very divided. There are a lot of people who think they don't like country, and then you start citing them. So they go, "No, I like that. No, I like that." And you go, yeah, you do like country. And I saw Dolly Parton on stage in Birmingham, and it was just like it was just the most fantastic thing. It was a birthday present, my 50th birthday present. And there was this majestic thing about being in an audience that looked like they had loved and lost a lot, but they were all that thing about, you know, the suppository for the emotionally constipated. It was everything was coming out, and it speaks to you like a tuning fork, doesn't it?
Well, I think like what I learned from country, like all great writing, is, you know, it really, they're incredible lyricists, the countrymen. They really, it's kind of for the everyman, you know, and it narrows, the lyrics in country music narrows itself to the struggle of just doing another day. And like John Prine, you know, Townes Van Sant, they're kind of the bedrock of great music. And it's very brave to write music in that place where there's no padding in that world. It's so human. And I learned a lot about writing and actually acting from working with country music because of that, because it's not trying to distill it or diffuse anything. It's really trying to get to something that's very potent.
And you said that you have to write. How do you write? Do you have notebooks with you? Are you constantly writing stuff down?
It's something that's kind of evolved. I've always kept notebooks. On Hamnet, I, in a way that I just didn't expect or didn't even know while I was filming it, it became like essential to me. And it really became Agnes's language, and discovering a language which was something kind of strange. And I kind of created this scrapbook when I was making Hamnet, which is kind of when I don't look back on it, but sometimes you pick it up and you're like, whoa, that's like a whole inner self of that person. And you can pick up another notebook, like during Cabaret, as every night before I would go on stage, I'd finish doing my makeup at like the 20-minute call. And the last 10 minutes before I go on, I just like open a book, put a pen to paper, and I would not stop writing until they said, please come to the stage. And it's I find it so interesting because in some ways it focuses your present space of mind. And so that means that however you're entering, especially if you're doing a play, however you're entering that play is present, and you're tuning into that, the day you've come from, and making the show alive, not just a repeat. It's something alive. And in Hamnet, it was kind of a way of working with Chloé. I became very conscious of my dreams, which I found as a tool before Hamnet really useful, because I'm not very good at like linear thought. I'm not very good. I don't have a clue who my characters are until I've lived inside them. Like, I don't want to project an idea and tell a director I know exactly who this person is, because I don't. But I find free associating, using a scene from a film as a dream and abstractly writing around it, it kind of simmers me down to an essence of maybe where I'm going to go.
Do you keep a dream journal? If you have a dream, do you write it down afterwards?
I voice note them. I find it helpful
wow.
to like wake up and just voice note. Usually I can't find a pen, is the problem. And then I'll listen and then I'll write them down.
And Cabaret, obviously you won Olivier, one of your many accolades. Was Cabaret a great experience?
It was unbelievable. It was a beast. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Technically, emotionally?
In all the ways. It was, being honest, I was really exhausted coming into it. I'd done Women Talking and Men like back to back and had a week off and went straight into Cabaret. And I was nervous starting it, and I kind of tried to get out of it because I was scared of the emotional, that show, especially Sally, you get on the train at the beginning of the night and you do not get off that train.
Yeah.
And it's extraordinary like that. And the great experience about doing theatre is you really can kind of go to another place when you're in that space. There's no cut. There's like, you just live a whole life, night after night. And she really got in under my skin in the most like explosive way. But as an actor, it was also really like, I learned so much from that moment, because there was definitely a moment where I fell apart after probably 4 months, 8 shows a week. And mid-show, one night, my voice just completely went on the stage. And that's such a scary thing to happen, and I feel such responsibility, when I get on that stage, because I want people to go on a journey in the same way that I went on a journey when I saw that production of Jesus Christ Superstar. And all of a sudden, there's a kind of an interesting relationship between an audience and a stage, because in some ways you're on a pedestal, but you're also you're sharing something where you're trying to like express the shadows of humanity that we can't really express walking around in life. And you kind of are like a giant and human, and sometimes you just are human. And that moment was me being just human and really not being able to do it anymore.
Wow. You mentioned earlier on that, telling women's stories and working with great women creators. Obviously, you have had a number of films which have been directed by women, most recently Chloé Zhao, obviously. There's a couple of things I want to show clips from. We will show a clip from Women Talking in a little bit, which was Sarah Polley. You've done 2 films with Maggie Gyllenhaal. You've just finished Bride, and Lost Daughter, which is a wonderful film in which you play the younger version of the character, which is played by Olivia Colman. Can we have a look at a clip from this and then talk about the clip afterwards?
No.
You've changed. Just absolutely, and it's like playing, said, "Oh, I love this scene," but it gets you. So, talk me through what's happening there in that scene with your character.
God, that's a big question. Well, being a mother is complex,
I mean, no, I don't, but yes, I mean.
And I think what Maggie was kind of putting out into the world was like, how much can we hold of the complexities of what it is to be a mother, not just the idea of a mother. And a mother who's also a woman who's also got a brilliant mind, a woman who's also hungry for something more. And what if the idea of a good mother, whatever that is something else, you know? And I don't know if she has an answer to that in that moment. All she knows is that she needs more. And she sees her two incredible daughters in front of her, and I felt she had the capacity to love them and does love them in the exact same way as she would if she'd stayed. But actually for her, she felt like there was some kind of part of her that would have maybe done a disservice to them as young women to know that they had to stay and reduce their mind, reduce their hunger, reduce their need for life. And I'm a new mom. I'm still figuring it out. I know mothers. I have a mother. I know women, and I love women. I think they're extraordinary. And I think there's a lot of us that I call them the shadowy bits that are hard. It's hard to watch that, you know. Yeah. It's interesting. I haven't seen that for a long time, and like when you're making it, there's a kind of, you feel like I need to say this. Like I know I need to like metabolize this shadowy bit. I need to understand this because I know this exists. I know mothers feel this. I know women feel this. I know as a daughter, I see this too, and I need to metabolize this to understand it. But seeing it, I find it hard. Like, you know, I have a 6-month-old daughter. I'm like, what is she doing? Why is she leaving? Like, how can you... But I think all of it's possible, you know. I think my experience being alive, is when you try and decipher parts off of yourself, they come back louder, and they actually become generationally destructive.
There's a weird thing going on as well, which is that because when kids are acting, they're not acting, they're being. And the kids in that are just, it's astonishingly realistic, because, you know, they're just being the kids. And the thing about, you know, I can't even say actually without, you know, I can't imagine what it must have been like to film it with them, because you must feel that it's actually happening.
Yeah, I guess you do in a way. But you're also working as an actor, you know, and I guess I'm working as an actor who's had experience, and with those little girls, I'm not a method actor, you know. My set, I have intention and focus, but I also have a light touch, and it's important for me with those little girls to you know, make them aware that this is safe, and after this, let's go and get biscuit, like, you know, and mind their hearts, because those moments are real. It's not when you're working, when you're really in it, it's not acting, and it's a place I always want to go to. I don't want to act. I want to be. And so those places, you do create relationships with these people, and you fall in love, and you break your heart, you know. But you also have to have like that bit of you that's knows that you're going to step out of this. And also with young children, it's your responsibility as the adult to protect them and make them recognize that there is a frame that you're working in. And that frame is really powerful. But it is something that you can step out, and you will step out of.
Because I feel that so much of your career has led to Hamnet. I want to play one more clip before we specifically discuss Hamnet, which is from Women Talking, which is Sarah Polley. And again, there's an awful lot of stuff in this about mothers and daughters, and there's something about the very title itself, Women Talking, which actually sounds provocative. It's like, that is what it is. It is women talking, and people respond to that. And I mean, you know, people are responding to that and go, oh, women are talking. So let's have a look at this scene, and then I want to go from this into Hamnet. Okay, so. I love that film. I love the fact that it starts with, I think it is from the Miriam Taser, which says what you're about to see is an act of female imagination, because obviously that
Wild
female imagination. And the thing I love about that scene is that it ends on that smile, because that smile says so much. The experience of making that, in which you had that ensemble cast, and it's an amazing ensemble cast, and I imagine sort of fairly sort of limited resources, but I think Sarah probably did a brilliant job of it. Did you feel when you were making it that you were part of a community?
Yeah, it was a very, very intense film to make. And I remember when I first got the script, I was like, 12 women in an attic, who's going to watch that? And I didn't know how they were going to do it, you know. I was like, and the book was, I needed time to take this new thought in, because it was new. It is new. And I remember I met Sarah. I did an awful audition on Zoom because it was COVID as well. And it was like one of those terrible situations. You've got like just internet, everything was crap. I was crap, it was crap. I was like, oh well. Actually, it wasn't all well, because Marika had really got under my skin, you know. She was the one in the book that I was like, oh, what is she? I know. And again, there was something about her that was really a shadow that was hard. She was like hard to take in, but I felt like I need to know that, because I know it. And then when we got to shoot it, it was COVID again, and we were in Toronto, and we were in a bubble, and we were all in this green room together where they had like partitions, like we were in a hospital between us all, and we'd have to we were in a kind of conference hall that they'd built the stage in, and really for kind of 8 weeks we'd kind of slosh back and forth to this attic, and you know, to do one scene, sometimes we do 120 takes, because there was 12 points of view, there was different like angles within that, and you're like going over this material that is very wordy and confronting and conflicting, and people have, you know, different needs in that. And actually as an exercise of, let's sit down as a group of women and have a conflict about how do we emancipate ourselves from our beliefs that are actually holding us back. An extraordinary bunch of actors and actresses, like Judith Ivey, Claire Foy, Rooney, Sheila, Ben Whishaw, Fran McDormand, who kind of weaved the whole thing together. And also, I've got to say, the incredible Dee Dee Gardner, who produced it, who really is an extraordinary producer and is an artist as a producer. You know, she's such a brave producer, and somebody who really is trying to get the story that is in the shadows to come out and make a shift in culture. It was an incredible experience.
So let me ask you about Hamnet. One of the interesting things with Hamnet is, obviously, it's a huge amount of awards attention. It has proved particularly popular. I mean, I think it's on course to be the biggest selling Best Picture nominee. And when they played it at the London Film Festival, people were coming out, you know, and it's a film that audiences have responded to. Did you always know that it was going to have that popular touch to it?
No. I don't think you have any idea of an aftermath before you
Really?
start making. Never. And if you do, you know that it's going to be the opposite of what you think it's going to be. So
Oh,
you
really?
just
Okay.
better not think about it at all.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I mean, I had an emotional reaction when I read the book first. I think we all felt like making it was such a special experience. But it's so vulnerable to, you know, that first moment when you share something that has really been such a personal, life-changing experience. It's so vulnerable. It's like, you know, giving birth. Like, you're like, love my baby, please. And if you don't, that's okay. I know. But I'm so thrilled and proud that a film like this, and a story like this, and, you know, protagonists like this can have such an impact that really it's kind of taken its own course in a way that I think none of us expected.
I was reading some of the reviews of your spectacular performance, and I could feel, speaking as a critic, I could feel critics reaching for words which they didn't have and ending up saying, yeah, you know. And I wonder what it's like when you put so much heart and soul into something to see people trying to explain their reactions. Because I think my primary memory was that when it played at the festival, people just coming out and going, you know, and in a way, that's often a more honest response than somebody going, well, the thing is, this scene works particularly well because this, that, and the other. Do you still have that kind of raw response to it? I'm sorry to say raw again because I know you said it earlier on, but
do I have it to the film?
But do you think that's what people do, and do you think that's partly why it's difficult to kind of explain how you react to something that's very emotional like that?
Yeah, I mean that's what you do it for, is to like touch somebody and make them feel something. That's my job. I mean, my job is to feel and to make people feel.
Was it brutal though? Because the stuff that your character experiences.
People always ask me this question.
I'm sorry, you know,
No,
it's my job, but
I know
you know.
I do.
I bet nobody else asked you about Tom Cruise, so I got that right.
No, but you never actually followed up on that.
No, I did. It's the bit in Risky Business. It's the bit in Risky Business when he's in the house on his own and he does the thing. I said it must have been that.
Right. No, you didn't answer that bit.
Okay, well, okay.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, fine.
Was it? No, it was a privilege. Look, these stories, these scripts, Chloé Zhao, Paul Mescal, Emily Watson, they do not come around in a life. These are, I may never do anything like this ever again. You know, it's so, sometimes just there's this collision, and this story met me at a point in my life. And I agree, I feel like there's something about Hamnet which in my work was kind of leading me to tell this story at this moment in my life. And I have been curious about the kind of shadowy bits that I keep saying, in a way to kind of fill the space, the epic landscape of a woman and of a mother, and allow all of it to exist. And I think what shifted in this exploration in this woman was she was uncompromisingly embodied. She had her own language. She existed in parallel with the great man that is Shakespeare, but also the great heart that is Shakespeare. And in that alchemy of their love and the fact that he could, you know, contain her, drink a case of her, and vice versa, something was tenderized in me. And so I say this to my husband, I say, you know, the thing about me, Fred, is I'm very strong, but I'm very delicate. And I think I've been like trying to hold space for these amazing women to grow, and for me to grow within these amazing women, so that all things can be accepted, not just a slice of a woman, but all things, and that it's not just something that has a hard exterior. If you're a strong woman, it's not just a hard exterior. And I think Agnes taught me how ferocious tenderness is by being a mother and loving a man who could contain all of who she was as well.
Can I just say, I don't know what anybody else is thinking about this. You are one of the best interviews I have ever had. Just whole coherent sentences. I want to play a clip from Hamlet, and I want to be absolutely clear about this because critics always get it in the neck for plot spoilers. We're going to play a clip from towards the end of Hamlet, okay? And this was a clip that has been chosen by the film company. So it's not a plot spoiler, okay? Hamlet dies at the end of the play, all right? Everyone knows that, all right? But the reason for showing this is because it says a lot about the power of acting, which isn't to do with verbalization, it's to do with physicality. And I want to just look at this scene and then just ask you to break it down a little bit afterwards, and then we'll take some questions from the audience. Okay, so this is from the end of Hamlet. As I said, I know it's at the end. He dies. So, as I understand, you were quite heavily involved in discussions about how that scene would develop, because it was something that developed over quite a long period of time, right? So tell me about constructing what's happening in that scene.
Yeah, well, it was the end of shooting, and look, it was terrifying to go to the Globe and have to land the plane, you know, after going on such a journey with everybody. I think we were all intimidated about that. And on the page, it was pretty sparse, you know. There's a performance of Hamlet. Agnes goes to the theatre, and I remember, so we had 10 days to shoot this. First of all, the first day, it completely flooded the whole Globe, the recreated Globe. It like there was a huge, it was like biblical. There was like a huge storm, and it was just completely flooded. And I remember they had to go in with water hoovers, which I didn't even know.
Water hoovers?
Yeah, I didn't know there was a thing.
That's a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing called water hoovers. And like suck up all the water so the 400 extras didn't slowly sink as the day went on. And for the first 4 days, I can honestly say I was incredibly lost. I didn't know how to be, you know, how to go to the Globe, how to meet this moment. And, you know, it's not an unusual feeling to feel lost as an actor. It's a horrendous feeling to feel lost as an actor, and you go home every evening going, you're a piece of crap. Well, that was, they're all going to know now. And then there was a moment where I realized that my lostness was Agnes's lostness, and actually it is an incredibly human thing to be lost. And how brave did I dare to be seen to be lost in that moment? So that was kind of the beginning construct of when she's coming in. And I think Chloé was also feeling lost. You know, there really was a kind of searching quality. And really, Agnes is there to try and find why the hell her husband has stolen her son's name, who she can't find in her, you know, sphere of spiritualness. And all these strangers have access to his name, and they don't know him. And there's rage, and there's, you know, there's so much going on for real in that moment. And I think I remember maybe on the fourth night, I was driving home, and Max Richter's On the Nature of Daylight came, but a lyricized version of that, This Bitter Earth.
Yes. Came
on in my AirPods, and there's something about this piece of music which like cracked the ceiling.
And Max was already doing the score.
Yeah. I mean, we played Max every single day on set, like so, like every day. And yeah, there was something about that piece of music, but also the lyrics in that song that really like broke the waters for me, and all of a sudden I recognized myself and I recognized Agnes in a community of an audience, and that she wasn't on her own, and there were probably 400 people around me who had privately experienced grief in their own way. And I shared that piece of music with Chloé, and she had a similar experience listening to it. And we both sat in the Globe in the morning, and I just realized it was about surrendering to the a community, to something bigger than herself, and that we all need a community to hold the parts of ourselves that are too hard to hold by ourselves. That's why we come to the cinema, why we go to the theatre, and we read books, and these places are vessels for us to transcend through things that we probably don't know until we meet them, which is what she is experiencing in that unbelievable magic trick that her husband creates by reincarnating her lost son in the body of a story. And that reaching out, which wasn't in the script, came from trying to touch that tender void that had been lost, you know. Yeah. And I think the touch, you know, Agnes's touch, which Maggie O'Farrell has written into the book, is such an incredible, simple, beautiful act. It can seem woo-woo, but I actually don't think it is. I think it's as simple as touching somebody in like a way of connection. And I think in that clip that you just saw, I think she finally, through this reincarnation, can touch the thing that she's lost. Yeah. And quell the pain that she's re-experiencing through this story of her son. Oh God, so many. Like, I tell you, one of my all-time like favorite books that I feel like it's like a Coen Brothers. I love satire. And there's this amazing writer from the 60s called Richard Brautigan. And he was kind of like a Bukowski Hemingway of his time, but he's got this, one of my favorite books is this book called Sombrero Fallout. And it's set in this dusty town in America, and literally a sombrero falls out from the sky onto the middle of this road. Have you ever read it? No. Into the middle of this road, and three kind of characters, the mayor's cousin, and a homeless guy, all come around this sombrero, and they're like, oh, if I can state why this sombrero is falling out of the sky, well, I can stay mayor. And then the mayor's cousin's like, well, if I can state it, then I can actually become the mayor. And then the homeless guy was like, well, I can get a burger and maybe some raspberries. And anyway, this random event turns into an apocalyptic war. Yeah. It's good film, right? Coen Brothers should make it. But in the middle of this kind of epic universal situation, Richard Brautigan is getting over breaking up with his Japanese girlfriend, so it moves between these two places. It's so brilliant. It's such it's a tiny little slip of a thing. But I love it, and he's an amazing, amazing writer. Right.
When you make that movie, you need to come back. Yeah, do you want to? When you make that movie, you need to come back here to talk about it.
Oh, I had such
a great film.
A blast on that film. I mean, Olivia is a friend, and so to get to go to work with her and swear at her, like, ruthlessly was such a delight. But I tell you, the like hidden gem of that was Eileen Atkins. And we didn't want to hardly go to set because we'd all go into the green room and she'd tell us everybody she'd slept with. And we were like all sitting on there. They'd be like, sorry guys, can you come? We were like, just please go away. So I'm not going to tell you who, but she's had a good life. Oh, yeah, I mean, theatre is, I will always want to come back and do theatre. And actually, The Winter's Tale was kind of the play that made me recognize myself as an actress. Not in that production, but when I moved over to London when I was 17, a producer, Cameron McIntosh, was very kind, and I just done this TV show called I Do Anything. And I hadn't a clue how to do anything. And he very kindly offered to pay for me to go to RADA to do a Shakespeare workshop for 4 weeks. And I'd done it at school and was very intimidated by it. And then I went and did this workshop, and I did The Winter's Tale, and it changed my life. So yes, I will be coming back to do some more theatre. No, have you got any tips?
Well, I mean,
I
yeah,
haven't.
congratulations, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Well, listen, I think from all of us, we wish you the very best of luck in the craziness that is this period. Thank you so much for being so open and so fantastically eloquent tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Jessie